Hey guys, we're here for a School of Wok special sponsored by our awesome friends, the Curators, who have actually just launched this amazing product, mushroom meatballs. The Curators mushroom meatballs have just launched in Tesco in the freezer section across the country. I'm going to make a Curators mushroom meatball banh mi. Here's how we do it. Now it may look like a lot of ingredients here, but I'm, treating you guys to sort of 3-in-1 recipe where I've got my lovely baked bread from my local bakery. I'm going to make a pickle, a quick pickle, where I'm going to get some lemongrass, some lime leaf into there as well. A mushroom pate. You can get mushroom pates from your local supermarket, but I'm going to show you how to make that from scratch. And then we're going to finish off with your meatballs and compile the whole thing. My first stop is my pickle. So, classic Vietnamese pickle would have carrot and mouli in it, but I've gone for fennel today for a bit more flavour. And these mushroom meatballs are actually packed full of flavour themselves. I've got 86% mushroom content into it. And what I like about them is they don't sort of feel like meat alternative, which as a meat eater, I quite enjoy. And I love mushrooms myself, and you can really taste the mushroom in them. So I'm just finely slicing some carrot. And then similar sort of slices of cucumber. I don't mind sort of almost ribbons. And then I've got some fennel here, and then again fine slices of fennel, mouli, any sort of hard vegetables work really well with this sort of Vietnamese style pickle. Now classically with a banh mi, the meat or anything you're putting inside, you'd make like a lemongrass marinade. But I'm going to infuse the lemongrass and lime leaf into the pickling liquid. So I've got some rice vinegar in here and some sugar. Lime leaf, pop in there as well. And then we've got some lemongrass, which I'm just going to cut the ends off. I mean, you don't have to do this. I'm just making what I believe to be a really delicious banh mi or baguette. And so bash a couple of lemongrass and pop them into that. Bring that up to heat. I might need a bit of water for this as well, but I'm going to melt that through first, melt that sugar through. A little pinch of salt. So I'm just doing this so I can get that lemongrass and lime leaf infused into that liquid. I topped it up with a bit of water. So now that vinegary, salt, sugar mix can go straight over those. Slightly odd way to do this, and it's not always, you could use a cold pickle without any problems, but you'll get a nice bit of that lemongrass flavour in there. So that'll sit down and cool whilst we're making up the mushroom pate and then frying up the meatballs, finishing off with the banh mi. Next up, I'm going to make the mushroom pate. And again, you don't have to do this, but hey, this is School of Wok after all, so I'm going to show you how to cook a few things. You can buy a mushroom pate. We're going fully vegan here, so I'm using these walnuts, which I'm going to toast off in a dry pan to create a bit of creaminess in the mushroom pate. So just dry, toast them off. Once you get that sort of nice, toasted, nutty sort of fragrance coming off, then they're going to go into the blitzer. Whilst that's happening, I've got some chestnut mushrooms and some shiitake mushrooms here, which I'm going to slice up. They don't need to be too thin, because they're all going to get blitzed up as well, and I want to keep as much of the moisture in the actual mushrooms as possible. The shiitake mushrooms are already quite thin in themselves, so I might just leave them whole and then sear them in the pan in a second. Of course, when you're making a mushroom pate like this, it's always good to make a fair amount, and then you can use it for, a dish like this, or just spreading on some toast, however you want. So it's quite a nice thing to make whether you're vegan or not. You can see with the shiitake, I'm just sort of tearing those up. And then my mushrooms are ready to fry. These walnuts are cooking nicely. Meanwhile, we're going to chop up some garlic. And I need a fair bit of garlic. I like my mushroom pate to be sort of nice and full in flavour, so that you're not sort of short-changed because it's vegan. You want a good amount of garlic and seasoning in this pate. Roughly chopped. And again, this is all going to go into the blitzer, so I'm not too worried about it being overly fine. We'll get those garlic cloves into the mushrooms once they've had a quick sear. So my walnuts are toasted nicely. We're just going to sort of compile bits into this food processor now. Before I start to cook my mushrooms, I want my pan to be really, really hot. And I'm going to pour all this olive oil in, and then get those in. And you want to fry these mushrooms nicely. Obviously they'll start to wilt down in a second, but with mushrooms, any sort of mushrooms, you want them to seal really, really well. Kind of like cooking meat. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how the creators make their meatballs, but what I really love about them is it really is packed full of flavour, and that's natural flavour from the mushrooms themselves. So we're trying to complement that with this homemade mushroom pate. So not too much moving around the pan, I'm just pressing those mushrooms down. So seared one side of the mushrooms really nicely, give them a flip over and sear the other side. And you know you've cooked them well if you're getting that sort of nice sort of brown or slightly crisp edge around each slice of the mushroom. High heat all the way. Whilst we're searing those mushrooms, I'm going to grab a whole load of herbs. I've got some parsley, which I'll just roughly chop up and pop in here. Some rosemary, which I kind of want to cook through so that it brings out the flavour more. So I'll add these along with the garlic to the mushrooms next. Again, just roughly chopped because that'll go into the blitzer as well. The rosemary can go in. The garlic can go in now. We don't want that garlic to be raw, but we also don't want it to burn, which is why I'm putting it in now. And then mix all those herbs and that garlic into the mushrooms. Now that I know that the mushrooms have sealed all that moisture into themselves rather than in the pan, you can start to season it up. The salt will bring moisture out, but in a second, we're going to put these mushrooms into the blitzer. Some black pepper. So I did season it quite heavily with salt there. So once it mixes in with the nuts, with the walnuts, that will sort of dissipate into the rest of the mix. You're going to cook this through for another minute or so. Just let that garlic fry through nicely, and then we'll add that to the food processor. You can see now how sautéed they are and how much they've wilted down. All those mushrooms. Straight in, give it a whiz. If your mushroom's a bit coarse and you want it to be a bit sort of finer, then just add a bit more olive oil into it and you'll get a nice paste. Let's have a little taste of this now. Looking great. That's delicious, and you can really taste the walnut, that toasted walnut flavour in there. That is really lovely. That's going to go so well with the mushroom meatballs inside that banh mi. So onto the meatballs, and this of course is a perfect sort of product for a quick dinner. You can pan fry them, you can put them in the oven, you can grill them. Really, really versatile product. Very, very simple to use. I'm going to fry them so you can see exactly what's going on. High heat first, and then we'll bring it down to medium heat. So meatballs go in, and you know, I've cooked a few different things with this. You know, teriyaki meatballs, meatball pasta, meatball subs. I guess this is kind of like a meatball sub, just a bit more Vietnamese and Southeast Asian. They take about 12 to 15 minutes to cook up. You want to get them brown, but of course they're frozen, so you want to make sure that they're cooked all the way through. Whilst those are cooking up, I can start to get everything ready, set and ready, get my herbs picked for my banh mi to finish it off. So my banh mi, my bread. It's always nice to get a really good hand-baked loaf if you can find them. And then I'm actually going to scrape a little bit of this out so that I can get more filling in. And you can see how great this bread is. Any sort of baguette you can find works, but the nicer the bread, the better. Plenty of space there for my filling. I'm going to go generous on the mushroom pate. Ooh. So my meatballs have had a good 15 minutes and they're sort of bouncing back at me, which is good. Great colour. Just going to line them up in my banh mi. When we were in Vietnam a while back, it's very clear that there were no rules when you're cooking. You know, you just, if it looks good, it tastes good, then make it. And that's the way the chefs were, and I just love that about them. So this sort of hot pickle, we've had a lot of flavour. Get a load of that carrot in there. Don't forget the fennel. And then we're going to get some fresh herbs over the top, some sriracha, some vegan mayo, coriander leaf. A bit of extra parsley, why not? I'm glad I made that hole in there because that's a lot of ingredients in one sandwich. Mayo. Some vegan mayo here. Just gonna spread that on, and then sriracha over the top of that. And I can hear you guys drooling over this already. Close that up. And so we have our humongous Curators style mushroom meatball banh mi. Sometimes I doubt my abilities to eat such a huge piece of bread. The bread is really nice and soft, quite a sweetness to it. You don't miss the meat at all. For a vegan dish and a meat eater, this is great. And those meatballs, thank you Curators, fantastic. Great texture, perfectly and easy to cook. Really simple dish. Guys, if you like this recipe, you want to learn more, you can follow our Wok Wednesdays or Flavour Fridays. You can learn awesome food like this. And thanks again to the Curators for sponsoring this video.